I make no secret that I love animation. For over 100 years, the things that people could do with it had won people over for generation after generation. I even think that it's better than live action, because it would be one thing to film something already there, but having to animate everything from the backgrounds, the imagery, to the characters, it showed us the wonders what animation can do and ranks very high in the history of entertainment. Now, what would you say that some of the best came from My Little Pony? That's right, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, to be precise. People would be surprised to find out that this is one of the most popular and beloved cartoons currently running. And it's not just a big hit with girls, but it's also been a big hit with boys too, coining the phrase bronies. Developed by Lauren Faust, it caught everybody's eye with its colorful imagery, well-written morals, and memorable characters. And I have to say, I too have found this, and while I wouldn't say it's perfect, I still say that it was a wonderful experience to be a part of. Until I lost interest. Yeah, sad to say, as good as I found the series, there was a point where I just didn't feel like it had the same charm that drew me into it in the first place. And let me say, while the series clearly still has an audience, there are also some people other than me that feel the same way I do. And we all have our personal moments where our interest died down. For some it was season 3, for some it was season 4, but with me, it had to be in season 5.
Welcome! I'm so pleased to have you here.
The thing is, it may be me, but there was quite a long hiatus between the 4th and 5th seasons, taking almost a year to get started. It was around that time where I felt like the 4th season ended on a high note with Twilight Kingdom. I was almost starting to feel like there was no point in continuing. It seemed to wrap everything up from there, but then it kept going. You know the direct-to-DVD or VHS sequels to Disney or The Land Before Time, a lot of which people say continued a movie or franchise that didn't need to be continued, and left a bitter taste in your mouth? That's what this is to me. Now, not every episode was like that. There are a few shining gems, which I will talk about at the end, but for the most part, the recent episodes have ranged from forgettable to downright bad. Now, as I said before, this started with me on season 5. The cutie map I wouldn't say was bad, and it had potential to be something unique.
The Princess of Friendship?
Do you know Princess Celestia? I love your cutie mark. How can you be friends with different cutie marks? Don't you end up hating each other?
But it leaves a lot of questions unanswered, trying to be creepy when I don't really get the reason why, and taking ideas that have been in other two-parters like The Return of Harmony. But if you want an idea of what episodes I think stick out like a sore thumb are 2, Slice of Life and Amending Fences. These 2 aren't my worst of the season, but they're still pretty bad and provide examples of what the series is now. Let's start with Slice of Life. This episode, being the series' 100th, was meant to be a gift to the fans of the series. And at first glance, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. Nothing wrong with showing gratitude for getting so far. What they do with it is where the problems lie. It focuses on background characters that in previous episodes were just in the background. And the episode jumps over to a different character every couple of minutes, so we don't have enough time to get a chance to know the character's personality. All this episode does is references to background characters that are just popular on the internet, and that's it. And only internet fans would enjoy it. Now, I'm not anti-reference or anything, because things like that can work wonderfully.
You smoke? Mind if I do?
Aladdin and Toy Story 2, for example, both do great at making references. The reasons being that you have a real comedic talent delivering the lines in a unique and hilarious manner, or you make a joke or twist on the reference so that it can stand out even if you never saw or heard of the original source material. All Slice of Life does is reference a background character with no charm or wit and expects you to laugh at it. And unfortunately, this led to even more of these kind of jokes in later episodes.
How do you get your hair to do that all the time?
This scene happened after a character tried to kill herself, just saying. But another problem Slice of Life has is that it makes the main characters look weak as they spend a half hour fighting a bugbear, when compared to episodes like Ghostbusters, Twilight could have easily fixed this in less than 5 minutes. Speaking of character derailment, this leads to the next episode, Amending Fences. Man, I just said I liked Ghostbusters and disliked Amending Fences. I hope I didn't anger my viewers too much. Let me explain why I feel this way. The episode is about Twilight wanting to connect with her old friends in Camelot, even though Twilight did not have any friends to begin with. In fact, the conversation between Twilight and these ponies in the first episode, when you look at it, it doesn't even sound like they'd be friends.
There you are, Twilight. Moondancer is having a little get-together in the West Castle courtyard. You want to come? Oh, sorry, girls. I got a lot of studying to catch up on.
Does that pony do anything except study?
I think she's more interested in books than
Thought she
friends.
might finally be letting her guard down a little with that party.
What's even stranger is that they show this exact scene in a flashback, but it cuts out the parts when the ponies act skeptical, and they add nothing like they did in the first episode. It feels like they knew these couple of seconds would shoot this whole story in the foot, so they're just trying to ignore it and act like it didn't happen. But Twilight's goal in this episode is to make up to Moondancer, whose party she missed out on, even though it was Celestia who sent Twilight to Ponyville that day, so she never really had any choice on that. The episode tries to put Moondancer in a sympathetic light by being rejected by Twilight, even though she flat out ignores all the effort that her other friends put into her party. What's worse is that we get no chemistry between Twilight and Moondancer in the past, and all they do in the past is just act snobby to each other. Speaking of snobby, this episode tries to make Twilight look like a spawn of Satan for moving to Ponyville, as if she hated the idea of friendship and treated others horribly, even though the worst we saw her do in the first episode was politely turn down an invitation!
Dun dun dun!
Okay, sure, in the old days, Twilight could be stubborn and neurotic, but it was also balanced with her being calm and gentle. She also showed levels of patience and did have a strong one to help those she cared about, in sort of a sisterly and even motherly fashion. But now it seems that the series just sees Twilight as a bastard case who just wants everything to be perfect and nothing else. But hey, maybe I'm acting too harsh. It's not like she'd do something totally insane or anything.
Starlight, Star Swirl the Bearded is the greatest wizard who ever lived. The chance to have him back in Equestria is worth the risk.
Never mind. But let's get back to the subject of derailing characters. Let's look at the others. Pinkie Pie in the old days was a goofball, but she still knew when to be serious and play a part in helping. Now it seems that all she's known for is just being weird and random just for the sake of it. With Rainbow Dash, to be fair, I was never a big fan of her to begin with, but even with her being a Wonderbolt now, she hasn't changed and acts even more like a show-off and at times, a real jerk. Another example is Rarity, that while her drama queen antics were funny, now it just feels stale. Applejack is just there. The only one who develops somewhat more as a character is Fluttershy, as she learns to stand up for herself more. But even with that, we get an episode like Scaremaster, which resets her and brings her back to a scaredy cat.
Welcome! I'm so pleased to have you here.
Oh, by the way, you might be wondering who that pink unicorn Twilight was talking to in that clip I had earlier. Well, that's Starlight Glimmer, a new main character added to the series in Season 5. She started out as a villain, but becomes Twilight's apprentice in the finale. Her story is that after her best friend gets a cutie mark and goes to Camelot to learn magic, Starlight brainwashes a village for who knows how long, and the next plan is to interfere with a time travel spell that ends up destroying the world.
Welcome home, Twilight. I tell you, but I don't want to ruin the surprise.
And through all that, Twilight wants Starlight as her student. Yep, no punishment, no community service, not even a slap on the hoof. And what does she do throughout the series?
Maybe I'll just force friendships by magically enslaving the entire population of Ponyville! Starlight?
Kidding. I'm not from here either. I've been trying to make friends, but it's not easy. They're not saying it, but I think every pony knows about my past.
I'm pretty good at organizing stuff. Magic props, brainwashed crowds.
I may have been a tiny bit completely and utterly evil.
There it is! The town where you
Magically stole every pony's cutie mark, replaced them with equal signs, and forced them all to hide their natural talents? Yes. I learned the spell years ago when I needed to make copies of a certain manifesto.
Well, you don't know what it was like to be left behind. And then getting so bitter that you steal the cutie marks from an entire village, and then get defeated by Twilight and her friends. So you travel through time to get back at them, but they beat you again and teach you about friendship, but you're so terrified ponies will find out what you did that you can't make any friends!
In all seriousness, I need to ask, who talks like that? Who commits horrible crimes, especially almost destroying the world, and talks about it like it's no big deal? And at worst, make jokes about it. That's like if Scar from the Lion King was reformed and he makes jokes about killing Mufasa. It's kind of uncomfortable, guys.
Oh, I shall practice my curtsy.
What's even worse is that even after being reformed, she continues to doing stuff similar to what she did in the past, and at times even more psychotic than what she did before. But then it leads to my biggest problem with her relationship with Trixie. I'm not going to hold back any punches here. Even in the old days, I hated Trixie. She was nothing more than a boastful twit who blames Twilight for no reason, even though she saved all of Ponyville from an Ursa Minor with no intention to outshine Trixie. She has a petty revenge plot, asks for forgiveness at the end, and goes back to her boastful ways, not learning anything. People have said that her behavior was the result of the Alicorn amulet, but I honestly can't see any difference between her with or without that amulet. Back to the subject, she becomes friends with Starlight in the episode No Second Princess, but Twilight is skeptical of this and doesn't trust Trixie. Now you might be thinking that I'm mad at Twilight as I expressed complaints with what she's like now in the series, but honestly, she's 100% in the right.
Those words, is it possible to use them in a sentence together like that?
I know I said make friends with any pony, but, well, with Trixie's past and your past, I'm not so sure she's the best first friend. But whatever she did, you've forgiven her, right? Of course. It's just, she wasn't the nicest pony. Well, you did say any pony, and I just assumed that you'd trust me to make my own friends the way Princess Celestia trusted you.
Just because Twilight forgave Trixie does not automatically mean they're on good terms. And tell me, Starlight, when Celestia trusted Twilight to make friends, did Twilight almost, well, destroy the world? If anyone needs to gain trust, it's you. And maybe Twilight's concerned because maybe, just maybe, Trixie could possibly influence you to make bad choices again, and giving evil grins all the time when seeing Twilight.
You know, one thing I should... Excuse me for 1 second. Oh, God.
And also, Starlight just skips out on the dinner that Twilight had planned out without telling her. That's right, kids. If you want to do an activity with your friends, it's not important to tell your family about it. Yeah, great lesson to teach there. Now you might be thinking, this shouldn't matter if Starlight and Trixie's chemistry was good, right? Well, I would say that, if there was chemistry to begin with. It's revealed in No Second Princess that Trixie used Starlight just so she can be better than Twilight at something, and Starlight is crushed. But Starlight goes back and saves Trixie from killing herself. And yeah, suicide is glanced over, by the way. And Trixie sounds really depressed during this.
I was supposed to perform this trick with my great and powerful assistant, who was also my great and powerful friend.
Give One Course Meal some credit. At least Plankton acted more cynical rather than depressed.
Go away, cheesehead! Can't you see I'm trying to get run over? In fact, better yet, just step on me as hard as you can. Would you do that for me? Man, what does it take to get run over around here?
But I digress. In later episodes, Trixie does what she originally intended and rubs her friendship with Starlight in Twilight's face, just acting malicious.
Great idea, Princess Twilight. Asking me, Starlight's best friend, to help her on this difficult journey really shows how wise a princess you have become.
What's even more is that Trixie doesn't treat Starlight any better. She pushes her around, yells at her, takes advantage of her, and doesn't take her concerns seriously. For example, in the episode All Bottled Up, Trixie acts horrible to Starlight, making her very mad so she literally has to bottle up her emotions. And the reason Starlight keeps this from Trixie throughout the episode is because she doesn't want to lose her as a friend. And at this point, I have to wonder why Starlight even wants to be friends with Trixie at all. Just because they have something in common? You know, the creator of Ren and Stimpy has a lot in common with the creators of South Park, but that doesn't mean things are PG with them. Once Starlight finally expresses how she feels, it looks like Trixie may have learned her lesson, but at the end...
Quick! Do you have a spell that will make the spa ponies forget that the map table was there?
Haven't you learned anything about using magic to solve your problems?
No. If we learn that lesson, how will we ever have fun?
Before I come back to that, let me talk about this kind of relationship done right. Beauty and the Beast. In that movie, what drives Belle and the Beast's relationship forward is because with the Beast's treatment towards Belle in the beginning, she doesn't want anything to do with him after what he did. It was only after he saved her from the wolves that softens her feelings, but not entirely. It only changes when the Beast makes changes to his life in order to win Belle over, and it not only gains Belle's love, but it makes the Beast just a better person overall, and it's his love that allows Belle to leave the castle and save her father.
Take it with you, so you'll always have a way to look back and remember me.
Trixie doesn't do anything to change her ways, and treats others and even Starlight horribly. And why?
If we learn that lesson, how will we ever have fun?
Yeah, that brings me to another problem I have. The newer morals this series teaches. In the older days, the series did teach some very unique morals, like how to bond with your sibling, how friends can be like your family, and not to hang on to your mistakes. But nowadays, a lot of morals the series teachers feel poorly worded or even at times just bad things to teach overall. For example, characters that aren't as important as the main ones deserve as much focus and attention, but only if the main characters are treated like crap. Everyone has a part to play, and some are meant to be useless. One talk can make someone going through depression over an extended period of time can instantly make everything better. It's okay to not try anything new, and continue hiding under your bed. Give second chances to those who don't prove they haven't changed. It's okay to not learn from your mistakes, especially when they bother your friend. Okay, I got a lot of that out of the way, but if I were to say big time my lost interest is because— oh right, the movie. Okay, roll the footage. I'll be honest, while I liked the film on first viewing, looking back, it doesn't hold up well. I mean, sure, the animation is a work of art, and a couple of the newer characters I remember enjoying, but when looking at the story, the music, and how it treats the original characters, such as not focusing on them much or making them act unpleasant, it's not very good. If I were to say big time why I lost interest in the series, it's because it's gotten too stale and standard. Even with things like the Crusaders getting their cutie marks, Shining Elmer and Cadence having a baby, and bringing in too many new different characters when the characters we already have are just fine enough, it doesn't feel like it had the same charm or wit that made it so enjoyable to begin with. Some of the newer characters even feel like copies of already existing ones. I'm also not fond of it being more continuity based and trying to be more serious. I preferred it when it was more episodic and laid back. It felt like an escape from the harshness of reality in my eyes. And don't get me started on all the main characters getting party cannons like Pinkie Pie. It's like having every Looney Tunes character say "What's up, Doc?" It's no longer a unique and memorable part of that character. Now before I go, I should say that while I lost interest in the series, that doesn't mean I don't tune in every now and then to see what they've got. And sometimes what they got can be really good, just not as much as they did before. For example, Gauntlet of Fire. Spike's true moment to shine as he shows great character development as we get a new character in the form of Ember. And she's a lot of fun, stranger than fanfiction. With Patton Oswalt's hilarious performance as Quibblepants, it teaches a wonderful lesson on how, while friends disagree, the friendship you have is more important than something you disagree with. It also has a great way to address fans who have lost interest, and it takes skill to show how accepting you are of that. Dungeons and Discord. A hilarious episode with Discord, and it shows him having an awesome bond with Spike and Big Mac. Discord and Harmony. Another funny episode with Discord, as it shows how much he's willing to change for Fluttershy, and how Fluttershy loves him just the way he is. The Perfect Pair. A touching episode that goes into the story of Applejack's family, with great performances from Felicia Day and William Shatner. Now to wrap things up, I just want to say, this is to people who still watch the series. I am not going to tease you or treat you badly for that. I'm happy if you guys continue to watch the current things that the series brings us. This is just my own opinion. I may not enjoy it, but I'm glad you are. Some of them who do so are even friends of mine, and I'm cool with that. After all, isn't that why friendship is magic?